operating across multiple countries, multiple jurisdictions. It's a mind-boggling wave of complexity, and if this thing keeps shifting, the goalpost keeps shifting, and tariffs keep moving up and down, and you have to deal with the concessions and all that are there in various free trade agreements. It's very difficult, right? Maybe you will not agree with me. You might be able to manage it very well, but it seems to us as journalists that it's a very complex situation. So today's platform, today's discussion is largely around how you are managing this complexity, so that through us, other companies who are facing the same situation will be able to learn, right? They will be able to take some action based on what you are doing and what you think should be done. And that is what we're going to discuss today. So we will, like I said, try and keep this as a group discussion. So instead of targeting questions at individuals, which I might from time to time, but I'll open this up for open discussion between all of you by putting in one question at a time, right? Largely, we'll focus on, the topic of this session, which is how you're managing your business partnerships, your networks, how you're managing the tariff situation, what are the opportunities you're seeing, right? New opportunities, because you can't just sit back and say, oh, USS hit us, so I'm dead, let's go out of business. You will look for other areas. You're already looking for other markets, other means of fixing the situation, right? So we'll start with one short question to all of you. And you need not talk to me. You can talk to the group. What is the biggest global risk? We all know it, but you may have something else on your mind. Biggest global risk that's keeping you awake at night, and why?
If I have to think from our perspective in this power industry or a renewable industry, because we are part of that industry, for us, the China is the biggest part of our supply chain. So anything which happens with China is the biggest risk to us, but that looks like on the right path as far as, because we are a procurer from China. So any liberalization on the trade barriers towards that is a positive for the utility players. And of course, for most players who are looking to set up technological collaborations with them, getting technology, because we are on the right path on the manufacturing side also, on the renewable sector, by getting the technology and doing capex here in India. So it's a one-time import of critical know-how, which we are doing, and we are on the right path by promoting Indian manufacturing, which we have made giant strides in last 3-4 years. So any downfall in the relationship with China is a big global risk for us. US is not that important, as in I'm speaking for our industry and for our business, right? Of course, the macros are not that big of a risk because it impact you, but those you can, let's say a US impacting the overall market, overall forex, the moves which Mr. Trump makes impact the markets and all, which you can manage through your safeguards for us, because it's not a direct impact, it's an indirect impact.
Yeah.
But for us, the bigger risk is, let's say if things go down with China.
Very important for us, as you mentioned, the tariff war. This is not at all affecting the solar industry, or you can say the RE industry much. Why? Because I think last couple of years we have just done 2 gigawatt supplies to the US, not much. And India has enough to do in manufacturing. India has enough demand.
Supplies of what?
2 gigawatt solar module supplies
Module
happened in last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So and what we are developing at present is more than 100 gigawatt. So it's partially very small part of it. So as such, US tariff at present is not affecting to RE more, but it is an opportunity missed. He could have gone, whomsoever is getting into manufacturing, they should have added more to the US. So that opportunity is missed out, but India has ample demand, both on the renewable sector, on the generation side also, and other side on the manufacturing side also.
Yeah.
Very importantly, what Mr. Dhingra has mentioned is all are depending on China. Once upon a time, the dependency was more than 100%. At least now dependency has come down to 80%, thanks to the government policies. Mainly the custom duty is around 40% on the modules and around 25% on the cells. At least Indians have started getting into manufacturing themselves, and within 2 years, because of ALM conditions, build up around 100 gigawatt. And I think by June 26, it will be around 150 gigawatt. Similarly for wind projects, if you say wind, at least India is now started producing around 18 gigawatt of wind turbines. Earlier it was quite on the lower side. All imports, most of the imports. If you see China, China do around 50 gigawatt annually against what we do 18 gigawatt. Similarly, if you get into BAS, which is coming up as a major storage solution, we are still at very, very nascent stage, depending a lot on entirely on China. So very important to see that the relationship till the time we have a technology transfer or we find out a very good global partners other than China has to be good with the China, because at the end, whatever we are doing at present, the technology is from China only. So getting into a right technology.
Is it
other
only
than
because
China
China has the technology, or is it like
what
cost
Chinese have
effective?
done, I will tell you what they have done is initially they started doing the copying, but the kind of focus what they had actually, that they started converting into innovations, and they have gone into more focused way. What they did it, one product, one district, one product, one state.
Which is what we are also trying to do, right?
Correct. I think I will come to that, which is so important for us in India actually. What they started doing is ample glass factory, ample cell factory, ample polysilicon. Now cattle, the cell manufacturer is producing, will be putting up a plant for 500 gigawatt. Nobody can even think of that. You cannot even visualize that somebody is putting plant in 68-kilometer line. That is the way they go. That is the
68 kilometers. 68 kilometers.
68-kilometer approximately area they are putting up the
One factory.
cell factory. That is the kind of thought process, vision what they have actually. So very important that India has to become Chinese plus one. We always tell that Chinese plus one should be there.
You know, we've been talking about China plus one for a long time. I don't know.
But now we should not miss out the bus. Why? Because Vietnam, other people are all growing up very fast. Malaysia, Thailand, they are trying to come up very fast on the manufacturing. So it is very important that we get into
Thank you.
some improvements.
So China is like, both of you were like very happy that Wang Yi came to India, and we had all those chats and all.
It is highly critical actually for this
Mr. Dhingra,
point of time.
what's happening on textiles? What keeps you awake?
देखिए क्या हो रहा है कि see we worked with COVID and we got out of it. Unfortunately, in the apparel business, which is globally, it is the most labor-intensive sector. All the technology in the world, the best machinery, software, hardware, still is not able to replace the human being. Which means, if you look at even the smallest apparel factory, which may be 500 stations, I would think, they will have to have 1,000 to 1,500 people. And 90% of those people are people from poor backgrounds, uneducated, women who have been, I think, left behind. If I look at overall India, at least 50% of people are women. 90% of those women live in smaller towns or villages.
Yeah.
Their fate is sealed. बड़ी होगी बेटी शादी कर दो, बच्चे पैदा कर लो, बर्तन साफ कर लो, खाना खा लो. So you have left a very large portion of your population as unproductive. If we look at historical data, every developing country has used apparel manufacturing as a springboard. Because wherever you go, at one point of time in 70s when I started, apparel was made in America. Apparel was made in UK. Marks and Spencer used to say proudly made in the UK. जैसे cost of labor बढ़ती चली गई, industry move out करती चली गई. उन्होंने China ढूंढ लिया, Middle East ढूंढ लिया, India ढूंढ लिया, Bangladesh ढूंढ लिया. And if you look at Bangladesh, they're much smarter than us. They realized that most of this population is uneducated. So some 20-25 years ago, they made it their business that we have to protect the apparel industry like it was a child. And if you look at जितने उनके अनपढ़ लोग हैं जैसे हमारे भी हैं, तो the entire government, right from the president, everybody owns 1 or 2 or 10 or 20 government units. There's nobody in the bureaucracy or politics जिसका government में हाथ. So today what do we see? 85% of Bangladesh population works in garment factories only. But they are able to raise the basic standards. So when any worker starts to get even as little as 15,000 rupees, she's able to change her life. She's able to educate her children. She's able to take care of her family. So the next generation that comes is of educated people. Now, I'm happy to say that our government in the last few years, I was not many, has taken note of it. Now there's a conversation of labor-intensive sector. आज से 10 साल पहले कहाँ थे? We're all chasing technology, which is a good thing, not to say we need that, but at the same time, if you ignore the labor-intensive sectors, half of India will be left behind. And there's no choice that we have. So this, today, I think almost 5 crore workers are engaged in the garment industry in India, approximately. Of which about 35% is America. We export about $16 billion worth of garments. That keeps 5 crore workers engaged. And with the current focus, I was hoping, because India is only 16, Bangladesh was close to 40. Vietnam, being a small country, is also close to 40 something, 48 or something. Cambodia is 28, we are only 16. We've stuck in 16 for the last 10 years. So with the current focus as, this is like a bolt out of the blue. There are several companies, including ours, where our dependence on the American market was as high as 80%, 90%, 95%. I've spoken to some of my associates. They don't know where to take this amount of labor. Because moving from one country to the other is not easy. Finding customers that would trust you and give up their existing supply chain is also very hard. So it's a very difficult time. Very difficult time. And I suspect if some kind of a compromise is not found out, you will see probably 1 crore of people out of jobs in the next 3 months, 4 months.
Your view on what keeps you awake? You vanguard basically the entire electronics industry.
I'll go very macro actually, very strategic and macro. Actually, nothing keeps me awake at night. I have a very sound sleep. I am very early riser, so what concerns me in the early morning around 4:30 is that 18% of the world population is on 3.5% of the world GDP. And we are not firing on our potential. I mean, there's a deja vu when Sudhir was speaking. This is my old sector. I was president of Nahar Industries, Oswald Group, and we were struggling with the quotas at that time, and we felt that if quota goes away, then there'll be magic created, and the 16 billion is absolutely heartbreaking, and that is also at risk now. So we have gone wrong. Actually, you see, there are deep structural flaws in our governance structure and our economic structure. One of them, Sudhir alluded to, which is participation of women in the workforce. No tiger economy has ever been created without a significant participation of women.
Yeah.
In the olden times, there used to be a magazine called Pravda. I don't know if you remember that, from the Soviet Union, where Pravda वो freely distribute करते थे वो propaganda में. And so most of you are from my vintage, it seems, and except Vikram, he's confused. Okay, what are we talking about?
But I still know the magazine.
So the Pravda had that young tough lady driving a huge excavator. That was a front page. But on a very serious note, I'll come to the structural flaws. I think the first biggest structural flaws is that GVCs, right? I have tremendous respect for MSMEs and so on, but you see, the GVC lead firm is a mother hen. They give the cushion to the economy, and most of electronics is not affected by the Trump tariffs.
Yeah.
Why is that so? Why is that not happening in other sectors? Big question mark. Because we are all blaming that, the CIM or our negotiators didn't do well, etc. But you see, in this economy, all the ducks have to be lined up. In a Vivastha where, a career bureaucrat, who has not the political edge around him, if he can turn around in an environment where there are people like President Trump, right? It's not possible. We are expecting, something beyond expectations. 3.5% of world GDP, not even 2% of the merchandise exports of the world. Till we don't get the GDP of other countries into India, which is become a very large merchandise exporter, this country cannot be, shining. The other very big structural issue is that I'm so happy when I see ACME or Inox, very sharply, vertically focused, or Syrma, because one of the banes of India is that, our groups grow horizontally. And if you see the great economies of the world, they have significant number of large corporates who are single-mindedly focused on the globe. Here, almost everybody gets into, like Bangladesh, everybody gets into this thing. So every group has a little bit of real estate and, the private investments, etc. So it is and all the youngsters now are running their family offices, focusing on that. I think that's a terrible cocktail, what is currently happening. We will not be able to go to the double-digit growth which we need for 2 decades unless we have the global champions from India, Indian companies which are strong brands. We don't have a single one of them. Maybe Hero and Bajaj Auto probably are, and a little bit of Mahindras are the only global brands. We have to be having global brands in all sectors and GVCs in all sectors. So I am very happy with my industry. We've grown 2,900% in mobile phones. Our exports have grown about 13,000%.
In how much time?
In the last 8 years.
8 years.
And electronics overall has grown 400% in the last 8 years. And now from 140 billion, we are confident of doing 500 billion. The confidence in this industry is the highest in any industry. It's a sunrise sector. And our exports, we were wishing that solar will, start accompanying in the export, but the US has impacted us. So in a structure, when GVCs are there, they are also a shock absorber.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If there was a plethora of Chinese joint ventures in India, you would not have had this concern, because they would have ensured that their government doesn't mess around with us. The American companies mostly hate us. Vivek, Vikram was there when the GVC discussion was going on. They just completely hate us. They say this is and we are so adept at converting global value chains into domestic companies. That's also an art. Colgate, Palmolive, P&G, these are giants who should be exporting for the whole world from our country, because we are almost at the Bangladesh salary level, so everybody should be manufacturing here. So why is it not happening? So that is what keeps me disturbed in the early morning, not
in the early
at
morning.
night, yeah.
All right.
Stuck up between two devils. We can't wish away China for the supply chain, electronics industry, and for future growth. Currently, the domestic growth is enough to sustain the electronics industry. But if it has to be a sustained long-term growth, you can't wish away America as a consumer. So on the supply chain
that
side,
is true for many industries.
because
From the electronics, that is true. You're right.
so that is the challenge currently which the electronics industry is facing. we cannot wish away China. We have to form partnerships with China to bring in the technology, not absorb, but improve on that. And one of my personal belief, I may be wrong, is average Indian's satisfaction level is low. You get selected into an Olympic squad, you have achieved. Winning a medal may not be in the mind. It's changing. I think
It is
we
changing.
in the industry have to raise our satisfaction levels. Not be satisfied with what we are growing. If I'm growing at 35%, I may be missing opportunity of another 50% growth. So I get satisfied with 35%. As Mahendruji was saying, or Saxena ji was saying, the 10th or 11th largest PCB manufacturing company in China has a turnover more than the entire PCB production in India. And then we talk China plus one.
That is true of auto components also. I'm coming
It's
to
everything.
Vivek on
I'm just saying. So we have to navigate that. And for electronics industry, again, what I believe is that if America is to be targeted as a market segment, we have to go out. Global companies means we should have manufacturing bases outside India,
outside India.
preferably in countries which have 10% tariff only. And currently Dubai is sort of attracting a lot of investments. And yesterday I read VVDN is putting up a factory in Dubai.
Yeah.
Who is?
VVDN, it's a software and design engineering electronics company.
Okay.
They are putting up a factory in Dubai, in that emirate part, to sort of navigate the tariff. But if Trump says any Indian-owned company will not be spared irrespective of the location,
Okay.
I don't know.
No, he is already in our industry. जैसे चाइना के ऊपर टैरिफ लगे, हाँ जी? But Chinese are kind of I don't want to be quoted.
वो value addition नहीं कर रहे वियतनाम वगैरह में ना.
What they did over the years was, even in the previous Trump regime, they set up factories in Vietnam, in Cambodia. It's actually Chinese.
Yeah.
You see, when we look at their growth, in our sector particularly, look at raw material, Chinese is far more competitive than us. So their raw material, their management, getting into Vietnam, using cheap Vietnamese or Cambodian labor, they set up plants much faster with the Chinese efficiency. Basically, चाहे आप Cambodia देखो, Vietnam में है तो चाहे चीन है सब. But they were at that time also, when we were not in conflict with them, they chose to go to Vietnam because they feel more comfortable with the, that whole Chinese thing. So that is something that somehow or the other, हम कुछ नहीं कर पाए.
See, secondary tariffs, you never know where the secondary tariffs
No,
will
but
start
you
hitting
see,
again.
I like to correct you. We are not rejoining RCEP. Neither are we joining RCEP. We never.
There was some discussion in the government about
Nah.
coming back.
There was, I think there was a business standard alluded to something like that, but the entire industry was very strictly against RCEP. There was a complete consensus not to be a part of RCEP.
Right.
But Vietnam is an extraordinary country because,
Yeah.
for example, they are enemies with China actually. It's not that they are. They are enemies with China, but their trade is 160, 110. They import 160 billion and export 110 billion to China.
Right.
So the key thing is how to sleep with the enemy.
I'll come
See,
to
they find
Shivpriya.
other markets. The question is,
Yeah.
they maybe China से import कर लिया, Chinese technology आ गई, Chinese management, Chinese पैसा आ गया. But they are going all over the world.
Absolutely.
With that.
Yeah.
And FTAs with the whole world.
Yeah.
See, for
Shivpriya.
me, as a a non-business person, what really worries me, as far as the world situation is concerned, is the uncertainty. From 2005, when we were talking about the world is flat, that's the time when Friedman came up with his book, and we were all rejoicing and, thinking about globalization and all, to now, which, it really, the way the countries are, there is complete uncertainty. and I'd like to borrow the term from Gen Z. In relationships, they have this concept of situationships right now, right? And
Yes.
the world politics is also almost like that. There is no certainty in terms of who's going to go with whom and when. And that, I think, leaves a lot of problems, I would say, as an outsider to the business community, as to how I would marvel at the business community as to if they can navigate that issue in terms of not knowing what the next step is going to be, what is going to be the next Twitter post, and what is the gentleman going to do tomorrow, right? He could completely turn around tomorrow and change the whole thing. And we are, Sudhir ji said, he spoke about setting up manufacturing outside of India. Now, nobody is clear about what the transshipment rules are going to be. There is no clarity at all on it. So if somebody, makes that kind of investment, looking at the US market, that, they'll be able to export by setting up facilities, say in UAE or wherever, and you have, components which are from any of the other high tariff countries, how are you going to control? There's no rule. Every time you navigate a trade agreement, there are years of negotiations around all of this. And one fine day, you can't just figure out what he's going to do. So he's been talking about it for 35 years. This is not the first time he's spoken about tariff, right? When he started his political career, it was at the back of trade and tariffs.
Yes,
And
indeed.
It didn't affect us like that. It did not affect us like it has affected us today. It
Because
was
today
much,
is the
much
president.
But
minor.
what I'm saying is that
And
the
one
gentleman...
could live with it.
What I'm saying is
today
that-
he's going wild.
What I'm saying is at that time the situation was different. He's invoked these emergency powers, and it's...
He's discovered his own power, no?
No, but you
like
don't know,
Comstar
right?
tha-
You don't know whether it will be upheld, not upheld. You can say, yes, he's very strong.
Does he care?
He
He doesn't
controls
care.
both the houses. He will make sure it goes through. And then, of course, that aspect is there. But the gentleman's mind, nobody can figure out, right?
Yeah.
So he
Either
can
you call him
change any time, and then how the world,
No,
the rest
no way
of
to
the world
know
is
his
going
mind. And we have to bear him for the next 3.5
No, but what I'm
years.
saying
Minimum.
is that,
After that,
कोई-
उसका
after
दूसरा
that,
आएगा
ठीक
ना?
हो जाएगा.
see now...
But can you survive 3.5 years
JD
as an
Vance.
industry without America is the key.
See, look,
But
as
one
I
question,
said,
have
that
just one
these are
question.
situationships.
Yes, absolutely.
It will.
Right?
It has not opened
so
up yet.
how
What
the
you see,
rest of
UK
the
is only
countries
one
are,
and-
what
one
they're
and a
going
half
to
billion.
give up
Yeah.
to get the American markets, we don't know. And then what you'll have to do to deal with that situation is something which is, you can
Vivek.
keep guessing about.
Your POV.
But the lawyers are happy about uncertainty.
It's interesting that you say that the lawyers are happy. I mean, I don't think we are in business of, at least I am not, in living off other people's misery. I've never believed in it. I would rather see the business prosper and, we get more work out of your prosperity than out of your misery. Even when we were looking at, even when we were looking at COVID times, right? And we were looking at something like force majeure clauses, which we never, they are called boilerplate clauses, and they were always there in all the agreements. Nobody really
noticed
paid
them.
attention to that. And now I'm wondering what kind of force majeure clauses should we be drafting for all our clients. We have clients who've already had shipments cancelled, etc. So, it's not even for lawyers, it's not easy.
Every night when we close the issue of mint, we wait. Because it's going to be morning in America. So we wait to see if Mr. Trump says something new. We'll have to carry it.
Every day is entertainment.
We can't close the edition till, we know that, okay, today looks like it's all right. Vivek?
70 billion is what we produce as an industry. 20 billion we export. Out of that, half is to America. We are
70
under-
billion? Billion.
Out of the 20 billion exports, half is to America, so 10
Yeah.
billion.
Huh.
And we are hit under the sectoral tariffs, 232,
Yeah.
in which you are at 25%, but so is everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a relative positioning thing, and eventually you will make things more expensive for the end consumer. Auto, unlike many other sectors, you can't switch that easily. Especially if you do powertrain parts, it takes 18 months to redevelop, revalidate, get it road tested and put in a vehicle. So it's not like they can walk away tomorrow, they have to eat the tariffs, as Trump said. But the exporter doesn't eat the tariff, the importer does. And I think that's the calculus that they're getting a little wrong, at least in our sector.
Yeah.
Second thing, and this I tried to tell our CEA, who thought we should thank the government more, but you do not tax raw material, intermediate goods, as well as finished goods. Doing all three, there is no way you can grow domestic manufacturing. How will an American company actually? So our US plant is right now under the most pressure.
Really?
It's actually paradoxical that what they wanted to do, the opposite has been achieved, because steel's 25% more expensive, copper's 25% more expensive, so is aluminum. If you import components from somewhere else, as we do in our US plant from Europe, China, Southeast Asia, India, they're all 25 to 35% more expensive. So we basically said, look, to our customers that either we shut down the plant or you take all of this and figure out what to do with your government, which they did eventually. Because 25%, nobody has 25% net profit margin that we can actually
no
absorb
chance.
it. So our equation is simple. And I know you mentioned uncertainty. Yeah, things are uncertain, but uncertainty, maybe I am also younger, so I have this view, but it's, there is a lot of upside in uncertainty. If you can navigate uncertainty, it's kind of like a fog. If you're ahead and you can feel your way through, you will get there faster. If you just sit there waiting for the fog to clear, well, you'll be exactly where you started. Sometimes you might be left behind. We have two competitors in Europe have gone belly up in the last 6 months already. One in Korea, one in China has shut shop. These tariffs affect everybody, but they do not affect everyone equally. If you have a strong balance sheet, if you have cash and no interest to pay and decent margins, we as a company make 26, 27% EBITDA. You can walk ahead and clear the fog rather than sit there and wait for fog to clear. There is a lot of opportunity, especially in Europe, because a lot of the Mittelstand, the family-owned backbone of the German economy type businesses.
But Europe में तो कोई problem है ही नहीं.
Sir,
Nothing has changed.
Europe auto is very nahi. So exports to US have dipped. Exports to China. China was the biggest profit pool of German automakers. In the last 7 years, the share of German cars in China has dropped. Not just dropped, it has evaporated.
उनके local cars इतनी अच्छी आ गई ना जी.
Outstanding.
Cheaper.
So if your
look at their
profit keeps
EVs
going
and things
down,
like that.
and let's say he's a supplier to an auto guy, you are dealing with shrinking revenue every day, and anyway your margins were 2 to 3% to begin with. If a 2%, 3% margin company has a 10% revenue decline, they fold.
Yeah.
There is a great opportunity for Indian manufacturing to take a lot of business in Europe if this uncertainty continues. If it continues, for good Indian companies, there is a lot of opportunity to take that business, but not make that mistake that 2007-8 Indian auto guys made, which is go be fancy and have a Europe office and factory, because that will also end up the same way. We are not going to be better managers of an asset that we've never operated. Second thing, and this I think everybody mentioned, but for some reason we believe that we cannot develop our own technology. I think we keep saying China, US, technology लेना है, अपना ही बना लीजिए. If China +1 नहीं होगा, you will be one and then somebody else can be. So we export more to China, by the way, as a company than we import. Because there are things that you can't get, like rare earth magnets, so we have to import them. We are India's largest rare earth magnet.
I thought that is opened up now.
It hasn't yet.
Hasn't yet?
No.
Okay.
I know the news has widely reported it, but as India's largest importer, I can tell you no, it hasn't.
Wow.
Okay.
अभी recently हुआ ना वो तो I think.
हाँ,
it'll-
मोदी जी
time
जाएंगे
लगेगा.
तो.
Yeah, अभी last week तो उन्होंने अपना they've made up.
Yeah. But we import raw material and export finished goods. Because there are certain technology products that we have that is not there. If you, we actually export about 70% of whatever we make. India is 30%, 70% is export. And it is because our products are better, not because they're cheaper. We compete with Chinese peers and German peers and Japanese peers in global markets. And in the small niche we operate in, we export about $300 million. We win on performance. And I think there will be a lot more companies of people my age, younger than me, who are actually building things that will be Indian made and better.
Neeraj Awasthi has not yet spoken in this debate. You know, आपका जो copper है, उसमें 50% का tariff है, right, on from the US and the other metals also. Sanjeev, check करो. हाँ, it's on now. What is? Let's hear your perspective. You know, from the global area.
Look, I think it's more related to basically whether they have that level of manufacturing to use the copper or not. Correct. Because, you know, like we are a global mining company, so we are mining in various continents and countries across. So they are putting, you know, maximum tariff based on the country of origin.
Okay.
So the effect is because we are producing copper, majority of the copper coming from South America, Chile, Peru and all these countries. So it all depends and variable, and still I think certainty is not there. If we can take the example of uncertainty what she rightly mentioned, in World Economic Forum survey of the business risk is basically they top the geopolitical conditions which is basically related to battle and conflict, and thereafter vulnerability of environmental effect, which we are seeing in this rain. Even in Rajasthan is vastly affected. It has a maximum rain, means...
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Completely reversed.
Whole of
Floods are,
Rajasthan received maximum rains among all these provinces in the country. So I think uncertainty from the nature up to the business is existing. How we well combat and how much institutional support is there. We are operating in mining and fertilizer sector. Both are regulated, totally regulated. So we don't have a room to play on. We don't have, I'm very happy that Pankaj had mentioned, we don't have a global brand. We are buying the inputs and selling to our even domestic farmers or consumers. There is a capabilities, like we are largest producer of zinc here in India. We have resources, but still only government players are in mining, and if mining lease is being given to the corporates, a small chunk of the land, where investment will not be enough to actually make the huge production from that piece of land or mineral deposit. So I think there is immense need of government or regulatory bodies to jump in there and make capable our producers and whether these are joint ventures or local, to go beyond the boundaries. This is the right time for us.
I think let's take this discussion to the next level now. You know, basically, you had something that you didn't agree with.
Absolutely, because let's not...
In short.
Let's not give up on anything.
Yeah, like
because,
what?
you see, the lid of every organization or the country is the leader. And I think we have very capable leadership. And we will get out of it. I foresee that our tariffs will be around 15%. By
1.5.
By next 2-3 months.
In the next 2-3 months?
Next 2-3 months.
Before Christmas is what...
15%.
But I really appreciate this Punjabi idiom. And I'll tell you, थोड़ा more गुड़ा idiom.
हम तो बंगाली ऐसा तो सर समझा दीजिए था.
एक बहुत छोटा सा idiom होता है पंजाबी का, रब नेड़े के कुसुन. That are you going to depend on God or you punch your way through?
Right.
So I think that is we must not give up on a $3,500 billion market.
Correct.
Right? That is the import there. They are the second largest investor in the world after China. So we must get that. The American investments, clean up all our sectors. They are very unhappy about crony capitalism in a lot of our sectors, right? Which is a very obvious what I am alluding to. So I think let's clean up our stables and at the same time sleep with the enemy. China built itself on 4 enemy countries. Taiwan, Korea, Japan and the US. Technology, investments, skills, competencies from these 4 enemies. Then they robbed, replicated, replaced, and now they were.
Now they are innovating.
Correct.
Big time.
So, you know,
Sorry. What happens is we have to de-risk our businesses. Typically what happens,
So
typically
that
what
is the
happens,
question that I was coming to. Good
typically
you
what
started.
happens is that if we are in one industry, for example, we are in energy metering, and today energy metering is just hitting the roof. If we get satisfied because turnover is also coming, profits are also coming. So we become a bit complacent. We have to de-risk. And that has to be a strategy of the company. How much...
De-risk how? By diversifying. Get into other lines of business.
See, every industry will have certain verticals. For example, electronics industry has an industrial vertical, automotive vertical, medical, healthcare, defense, aerospace, automotive, it is ICT, it is EV. So there's a whole lot of things. Now, I could be a mobile phone manufacturer having 90% of my revenue coming in from mobile phone. But if I don't de-risk, the moment that sector has a hit, I fold under.
Yeah.
Similarly, we have to have a very clear-cut strategy on markets, geographies.
Yeah.
Overexposure to America is about 5% of our total revenue. 25% is exports, only 5% is to America. What we are sort of having a fear of losing out the cream which we are trying to garner in the coming years. But currently the business is not affected because we kept America at a low level because American customers were sort of finicky and very sort of temperamental, transactional. European customers are long-term partnerships. My first European customer of 92 is still with me. They will not go for pennies. I think that strategy the companies have to formulate how to de-risk and mitigate their business.
Right. So taking off from that, you know, the question that I wanted to ask, which you have already answered, is basically what are the opportunities, because you all have certain growth targets, growth plans. It's not just about the revenue growth of your organization, but growth of your employees and growth of your workforce, well-being, and how do you grow, improve the well-being factor in your workforce and everything. How do you ensure this positivity in this kind of negative environment? One is, like you said, you know, you can set up plants outside India, go to the UAE, de-risk in that way. But Mr. Mahindra says that too much of diversification is also not good because then you spread yourself too thin, right? Whereas in Europe, the idea is that you stay focused, stick to your knitting and build large global brands.
We lost a global tender.
Yeah.
A global company was looking at us and he says, manufacturing facilities, we said 14 or 16. They say in one geography. I said, but geography of the size of Europe. But they know, so it's India. You have it in Slovenia, you have it in Slovakia, it is 2 countries.
Right.
So they say, we can't consider you.
Oh, okay.
So that set us the sort of thought process rolling that...
So geography diversification is different from line of business diversification, right?
They're
So
two
geography diversification is fine, which is one of the ways. But I wanted to pick your brains and understand, how do you get out of this kind of situation? Obviously, it's never going to be a short-term fix. You can't fix this overnight in 3 months or anything. It's always going to be, if you go take 18 months to, draw up a component for a new supplier, it's going to take long. So what are you thinking in terms of, and what are you activating? You don't have to necessarily disclose confidential company information or anything, but you need to tell us in general about how you're trying to overcome this and what are the new opportunities that you're looking at.
Sure, so I'll start.
Yeah.
But Dhingra sir, US is my largest market by the way. We are hit, but I'm trying to be positive about it. Because in automotive, the thing is, US is the largest market for automotive by value. China is the largest market by volume. China is the second largest by value. Europe is the third. Then India, Japan, Korea. After that, no other market matters. It's less than 1%. Even the UK doesn't matter. South America, Africa, there are no car makers.
विवेक जी मैं आपसे एक बात पूछूं, sorry to interrupt you. आपको क्या चाहिए? अगर मैं अमेरिका का देखता रहूं बहुत बड़ा, मेरे को तो 50 मिलियन, 5 मिलियन, 100 मिलियन चाहिए. मैं उसके लिए क्यों अपने आप को इतना स्ट्रेस में रखूं? उसको मैं एक तरफ कर दूं और मैं 100 मिलियन की मार्केट और ढूंढ लूं rather than 3 years मैं nervous रहूँ कि ट्रम्प साहब सुबह उठ के क्या बोलेंगे?
नहीं सर,
क्या
आप
होने वाला
कर सकते हैं because
It's
कपड़े हर
better
जगह पहने
to
जाते हैं।
understand and recognize
No, no.
कि ये प्रॉब्लम है, ये प्रॉब्लम ऐसी नहीं है कि कोविड था, हमें पता था शायद 3, 4, 6 महीने में चला जाएगा।
Sir,
ये हमें
industry
पता है
थोड़ी अलग
3.5
है।
साल तो जाने वाला नहीं है।
हमारी
So
industry अलग
if we do not,
let's stay
there are
focused.
no car makers in South America
Sorry?
and Africa and Australia. There are no car makers, so you can't as a component provider say South America चलो, because बनाएगा कहाँ? The car makers are concentrated only in these 5 markets that I said. That is it. That's 95% of the world market. So it doesn't matter. It's not like there is a choice if you're a supplier. But within these 5, you can diversify, you can increase. And
Yeah.
to your question, now railways is about, I'd say, 18% of our
Railway components,
brakes.
brakes, railway brakes.
So we are the
okay.
largest brake makers for Indian Railways. So if you're on a train, 1 or 2 times it will be our braking.
And how
I
long have
hope
you
it
been in
doesn't
that
go down.
business?
Sorry?
How long have you been in that business?
Since October last year, we bought it from Kubota.
Yeah, in like
Because
8, 9
we
months.
anticipated that Mr. Trump is coming. So we need more from the East. We need more from India. It is similar manufacturing processes to automotive. See, everything that moves has pretty much similar components. There will be a prime mover that moves it. There will be some kind of transmission system to move that power, like in any power transmission system. And then there will be a braking, steering or guidance mechanism. That is true for all mobility devices. So you can take your product to other adjacencies if you're looking for a market. So we bought into this and diversified away because you are right. His election speeches were around tariff. So if you thought he is coming and if you travel to America as we do for customer, you should move faster rather than when he comes. So now, at that time, America was 45% of our revenue. Today it's 32. It will keep reducing. Europe, we are doing much more. India will do much more. We are now looking at China as a market. So China is today now 8% of our revenue. We are opening another plant. We have one plant in China. We're opening another plant in China. China is a large
That
market.
is very difficult competition in China, isn't it?
Competition is everywhere.
It's a very large market.
If you are
It is
good,
a large market.
Very large market.
Mammoth companies and industries over there.
so is America. I mean, they invented the automobile. They are 100 years ahead of us. They have, everybody is...
still they don't make as good cars as Japan or China does.
As Chinese now.
Has it?
Well,
yeah, I
Most
mean,
of the cars break down like in a year.
it's an old industry and it is a very competitive industry. It's a very old industry because if you look at industrialized economy and how much automotive contributes to GDP, it's a decent number. India would be, I think 7 to 8% of our GDP is just this one industry. It is always large, and in a large industry actually even if you do something small, you can make meaningful gains. So it's a large market, we've had success, we've been operating there since 2019. And now we are doubling down more. So if China and India relationships improve, that is good news because your investments get stuck. So it's not like we stop them, they also stop us. So if it does get some kind of rapprochement, we will have some more room to play because it is the second largest market in the world.
Okay, I think we have a very, very intelligent Prime Minister. I think what he's moving towards is, we've seen what's happening in Brazil. We've seen Mr. Doval go to, Russia. Mr. Modi has spoken to them. Now they're going to meet in China. They're all coming together, which is what I think will scare America at the end of the day. If Mr. Modi and the rest of the team is able to get together and say, okay, we are going to not use the dollar.
It will make
The
matters
biggest
worse
challenge
with
that
the-
America will face, if there is a 2, 3, 4, 5% drop in the value of the dollar, American market will crash like how it is.
You have to find your way in, and it is easiest to deal with them. It's difficult, when you have a very structured thought process and so on. What you are imagining is that there is a group of great economists who will advise President Trump that, this is the possibility. The
They just
reaction
stop
will be,
using dollar as we do. It will impact the value of the dollar.
it will be a jerk reaction, and the next will be that your services will be attacked,
Yeah.
right?
That's already happening, sir.
No, services are not being
IT,
attacked at the moment.
Services are not.
You
not,
see,
not under
50%
tariffs.
of the
Last week, he clearly told a group of IT companies in the US to say, stop employing Indians. You must think of Americans first. And the top leadership of the IT companies, which is mostly Indians,
They were not present in that.
they refused to come.
Yeah.
They knew what he was going to say. So,
the American large companies, great companies, will stand up to Trump. We've seen that in case of Apple,
Yeah, yeah.
where
absolutely.
I think the bulldozing which Tim Cook faced was unprecedented, but he stood his ground. But this is what is good for America, and this is good for
Yeah.
we. By cozying up and trying to pretend that China and India will be friends, and thinking that we'll get reaction, positive reaction because he'll get scared, is going to be very silly. Because
I don't,
Shivpriya, you wanted to say
I don't
something.
think at that level you're going to be sitting and trying to scare anyone, because diplomatically it's going to be a disaster, right? You have to keep all your doors open and maneuver all the time. So I don't think it's scaring is going to achieve anything, or it'll necessarily scare him off. And taking from my first point, you really don't know who's sleeping with whom, who's getting into whose bed, right? So to say you'll get together with this person and do something, when I sort of sit and analyze it, I don't see that really happening in the long term. So really, I had a question to all the people. Given that the population of India is supposed to reach 170, 1.7 billion, right? What is is the Indian market, is it going to offset, do the business people see that happening? And again, in terms of all those PLI schemes that were floated, which were only successful basically, I think, in the cell phone manufacturing sector, do you think there'll be
Let's come to the solar people. They've been quiet for very
I'll
long.
come to that actually.
What do you
Because
talk about this
I think
question?
it's so clear to us at least. India itself is a big market. The dependency, the way India is growing, last 3 years the demand has gone high by 20%.
Yeah,
The
but
way it is going to go is now exponentially.
But can I stop you for a minute, just, and then you can complete? Is that I live in Gurgaon, and clearly in a place like Gurgaon, and I do go very often to say Kashmir. We have an ancestral house there. So on top of any of the hardly any condos have any solar. Use of any
That's why I'm
solar.
coming to that.
Hardly any of the houses have. So and it's interesting because the other day somebody posted on our RWA group saying, I've installed this solar thing, but my electricity meter is going completely haywire. I'm getting a bill of 17,000 bucks per month, where it was 9,000 bucks per month. So what's happening? So in terms of, somehow as consumers, Indians always feel that they are shortchanged even by the Indian companies as to in terms of what is sent out versus what is put out to the Indian consumers is always inferior.
Okay, let's not put them to the sword right now. But we have both a manufacturer and a power producer, so let's have both their views on.
We are
No intention of
I
putting
think
you on
I'll
a
come
spot.
back to that point
it's
also.
a
what you're
simple
mentioning
wrong
is
adjustment of
we are
the-
into both. Generation also into the
Manufacturing also, yes.
Generation, I don't see any. The demand is so high. I do not see any limitations.
But the demand is mostly from industry.
Correct. It is from industries.
The C&I
Even if you see
segment.
your home ACs, the way it is growing, very soon the load of the AC itself will be around 120 gigawatt in next 4-5 years. So whatever the way we have planned is around 500 gigawatt hour by 500 gigawatt by 2030. If India is going to achieve that, the demand is ample. Each and every company who comes into the RE, they can easily grow. Even the manufacturing company at present, we are producing approximately around 100 gigawatt of solar modules. I think another 40-50 will be also added up by June 26. So approximately 150 gigawatt.
Annual production.
Annual production, which is enough for India, at least for next 4 or 5 years. But the cell Because again, you have to have an entire supply chain. You are only having a modules. You have to get into cell. Cell at present is approximately around 20 gigawatt. What we need is around 150 gigawatt. You have ample things to do for next 3-4 years.
Cell production is not so much happening in India, right?
At present, it is not much. At present, it's only 3 gigawatt. Others are only online. By next year, June, they will come on the list of LMC.
Yeah.
So, by that time, we will be around 25 gigawatt. But what you need is 150 gigawatt. So, they have still for next 4 or 5 years, they can easily sustain in India.
So you're all set, man. I mean, you don't have to worry about Mr. Trump and all these tariffs, right? You got the
Absolutely
huge
no.
market here.
I'm telling you, there are another very big markets. Africa is a big market for a generation company. It's ample. Any country you go, you can put up a gigawatt.
Yeah.
So gradually you have to get and deal with them, governments there. I think we are ourselves discussing with them for very big capacity actually. So there is a huge ample demands for generation at least.
Do you need a new opportunity? You already have we are talking about different opportunities for other industries. You don't seem to need any.
So the biggest thing going for us is the domestic market, like he rightly mentioned, because we grew ourselves 100% last year, and we are supposed to grow by 50%, because the demand for power, both from the government utilities as well as from C&I, is very high, and it's a long-term infrastructure sector where I can make a plan for 2-3 years easily, because we have contracts which need to be done in the 2 years. These are 25-year contracts built with PPA. So what Vivek was saying rightly is that wherever India has gone into manufacturing, it is competing very well with China. So I don't see any problem in us beating China, where we have started doing things at scale. If you look at even module manufacturing, right? So here also our cost of production, we also have a small manufacturing, not very large, because we wanted to hedge ourselves against the Chinese modules, and India has made getting Chinese modules impossible because of the route. So our cost of production is as good as Chinese. So and of course we need to do incremental partnerships, like he rightly mentioned. They grew themselves on the back of their enemies. So whether they are enemy or not, it's all situational, like she rightly mentioned. So you can't have permanent enemies in all this. You have to be very, very opportunistic, or for a lack of a better word. But the point is, you need to, let's say we are not into sales anymore, but we need to be friendly with them to the extent to get competitive in the sales also. And then, because the machines are coming from there, I can't do any sales without Chinese machines. So we need, let's say, tunnel boring machines. It is not my sector, but I read you can't do those tunnel without their machines. We have to be very smart about dealing with Chinese, because you can't grow without their help. So you need to know what you need to get from them and what you can give to them. So in terms of let's say the capex, because these all things we are building, they are for 25 years. Whatever panels we make, they last for 30 years. Whatever PPAs we have last for them. So in terms of we have to not restrict them where it helps us, because whatever things we are building on back of their manufacturing, they are bringing down our power tariffs. They are bringing down the cost of production for Indian industry. So we have to be very smart that the crony capitalism, we don't encourage that and restrict their trade where it helps us. So we have to be very net positive about our thinking in terms of where do we need Chinese intervention, and why I keep coming back to China, because there is no alternative to them. In terms of the manufacturing, in terms of the industrializing our economy, in terms of creating jobs, you have to be smart about how you interact with them. And in terms of sales, let's say sales, like we are also into green ammonia sector, which is a new sector, right, where we have partnered with European guys as customers. So that market is not very secular. For at least they have imposed non-tariff barriers like CBAM and other things in Europe, because but they are very, like with all things European, they are not decided about it. So but the thing is, European customers are not you can't grow on back of their market. It's a very small market, and it's a very niche market. For us, when Indian market is very large, but it helps you to establish credibility. Going international is also helps you to establish best practices, because we have to learn a lot from them in terms of governance, in terms of setting best practices, right, in terms of sustainability practices. So that really helps you to set apart, and in a new sector you need to do that. But capturing international market, let's say in a renewable kind of sector, I'm sure Indians are the most competitive in the world, Indian players, because the price at which we set up a solar plant, a large scale, we are in the utility sector, we are not in the rooftop sector, but the price at which we set up plant and we are able to make profits at a very low tariff. The tariffs are the lowest in India, across the world, power tariffs, which is great for our country, right?
You're still able to make profits.
Yes, yes, all of us have been, we have been in the industry for 15 years. It's not possible to be alive if you're not making profits.
Yeah.
So the thing is, we are very competitive, and we are, I think, even the Indian module manufacturers are very competitive. So even if US puts tariffs, they'll be still more competitive than the US players. And like with, I'm sure with other players like pharma, with IT, because they are not competitive anymore with their cost of production, with their cost of permit. It takes 5 years to set up a power plant in US. We were trying to do green ammonia there because before Trump, they had Biden, who had a lot of incentives, right? There was a Inflation Reduction Act and all that. They were giving essentially great incentives. But the thing is, even to set up a plant there, it takes 7 years to 8 years, because the state regulations, it's a different country. Each state is a different country there.
Yeah.
So it's not easy to manufacture there. So even with tariffs, I don't think they'll be able to take large sort of market share from any other country.
Dhingra sir,
I just want to mention before you pass out to them, just one more very important thing from RE industries is the rare earth material, which is what very much dependent on China.
Yeah.
Somehow we'll have to work more on that, either in India or having other partnerships globally actually.
Sir, India may, to get the rare earth out of India is going to take several years.
Several decades. Parallelly, you'll have to find out a new partners.
This is
No.
not true,
No.
because I've been working on this with the government for a while now. We produce 1,300 tons of neodymium oxide every year. Indian Rare Earth Limited produces it. We sell it to Toyota Tsushu because Japan then makes things with it, because it is, and since the 50s by the way. So India is a very large rare earth material producer. I think we are also not very aware of what all the government
New
does.
mining करेंगे
No,
तो
but,
अच्छा होगा. Results अच्छा
how-
होगा.
शुरू से
How much does it account for the demand? Right? How much rare earth we
so-
need and how much do we produce locally?
How much rare earth we produce, are we magnetizing it or not is a different thing, and then the trace elements that he's talking about.
Yeah.
We don't have dysprosium and terbium because those are the only two things not available in India. We can get them from Australia. We need them in a few tons, literally a few tons is required.
Okay.
Your EV needs a lot of lithium. That is required.
Lithium is, I'll say, separate matter because I'm talking about lanthanides, so periodic table, third column. We have
Spoken like an
1,300
engineer.
ton will make you 2,000 tons of magnets. Our total demand in this country is 3,600 tons. Automotive, which is the only grade that requires higher grade, is 1,200 tons. So we have adequate to cover automotive. Wind turbine is the second largest
Wind
user,
turbine is second largest.
which uses actually light rare earth magnets, which you can freely import from China even today.
Presently, it is being imported from China. That's why the relation
Yeah.
with China is.
No, but
No,
Vivek-
it is very, very
No, I
important.
will
Magnets
clarify,
go into
Saxena
the
sir.
hearables
It
and
is
the
available. Light rare earth
speakers.
magnets are available in many countries. Vietnam, Indonesia, Ukraine, Russia.
Yeah.
It is not a big thing. It is only the heavies which is a problem. We have identified it. The government is working on a policy to introduce 6,000 ton of magnet production in India. We will not just be aiming at producing and meeting Indian demand. We will be exporting magnets like we were till the 80s. By the way, we were one of the largest magnet producers in the world. That industry died because of Chinese dumping, and we basically gave up. Now it is being revived. I think it is. Sometimes we say because government's an easy punching bag, right? So we just say government ne ye nahi kiya, wo nahi kiya. You know why it died? Because all Indian private industry started buying from China. So all the PSUs had nothing to do but shut down. They could have at that time introduced a policy that forced people in India to buy from the government. But they didn't. If they had done that, even that would have been an outcry. See, it's a very easy thing to blame the government because they can't punch you back.
Or rather we can say they have very poor marketing infrastructure.
सर नॉलेज देखिए गेन करना दोनों साइड से होता है. आपको भी कुछ जो रुचि लेंगे तो पता लग जाएगा. अगर आप पता करेंगे, like monzonite mining in India is from the 50s when Homi Bhabha started doing thorium से nuclear reactor. Apsara 1 was made from thorium. We have been producing rare earth for one of the longest times, and India's actual grasp on this subject was one of the highest in the world till the 80s, 90s. Then the Chinese realized it's a sensitive and critical area. They made the cost very low and started dumping. All of our people
Same
immediately
paradox.
flipped.
Same paradox what Nikhil is mentioning here for green ammonia. We are importing lot of ammonia, we are importing urea, while our local indigenous green ammonia, which is top priority for sustainability, especially in agriculture sector, is we
Very
don't
well
have
said.
any domestic consumption or requirement because of pricing.
And now it is cheaper than the grey ammonia.
Yeah.
But Nikhil, the point on scale that you mentioned is the best point so far, because unless you do it at scale, you cannot get the cost down to that. Which is what I also told the government, that don't
So
just make
one
it
small
well, make it big.
question, Vivek, before Mr. Gujral, and I'll have to come back to Dhingra's up for a question, which is that if we are so proficient in rare earth, producing of our own, why did the auto industry go into such convulsions that all our cars will have to stop producing cars and all that? Auto industry doob jayega because of China's curbs.
It didn't, right?
It didn't, but
It's still here.
there was a lot of noise.
I think crying baby gets the milk. So people,
So 4 of our
I mean,
plants were
what
shut
has
down
happened?
where
Rare earth magnets
the
have been shut
hearables-
for 4 months.
yeah.
What has happened? How much car sales have gone down? The data is out there. 4 months. And I'm the largest importer, and I'm telling you because there are alternatives. And if you're a good engineer, you can develop alternatives because you can use light rare earth magnets, which again, like I said, are abundant in the world. We got used to using the highest grade because it was cheaper and available. So use it. But when necessity comes, you go back to what can you do with the thing. Second, I think there is a gap in understanding of rare earths, which is what he was referring to, versus rare earth magnets. From oxide, what we produce is rare earth oxides. Oxides have to be electrolyzed to become metal.
Yes.
Then metal has to be magnetized to become magnet. What we lack is from oxide to magnet.
Okay.
Because we stopped doing it in the 80s. They were, Mahindra had a magnet company. Ashwini Magnets were there. Piramals had a magnet company. They all shut down because of Chinese dumping. So that part got lost. But the rare earth oxide production has been ongoing because it is a byproduct of extracting thorium.
Okay.
And it will go on because nuclear reactors will
See, this is a small lighter thing that if you go to a Japanese office, you'll only see made in Japan things in the office. Cars, staplers, everything. You go
So
to a
Japan
Korean
is a
office, no, you go to a Korean office, they will not have Japanese cars, they'll all have Korean cars and Korean things.
Yeah.
Some
Even
of this
Korean
thing
movies
in
only have
India,
Hyundai cars.
buying Indian is not perceived to be so sort of savvy.
Yeah. Mr. Mohindu, you wanted to
Very
say
well
something?
said, sir. Actually, I'll add to this
No,
anecdote.
yeah,
Yesterday,
please.
I was with an Indian auto OEM, and I told him I find it harder to sell to you because you would rather buy from Japanese or
Yeah.
Americans. Then I find to sell to Americans. That's why America has become bigger for me as a market than India.
Well, we'll-
because they evaluate everyone on the same platform.
We will open
Here, Indian
LCs.
is worse.
Indian
Vivek, we'll open LCs for the foreign vendors, but table when able to domestic vendors.
It's
Mr.
a
Mohindu, you
mindset.
wanted
It's
to
a
say something?
mindset.
No, I think
But changing.
what Vikram said that the private sector has to take a lot of the blame. If you study the annual speeches of chambers, apex chambers, presidents over the last 40 years, every year when you see it, it'll be like we've become the greatest opportunity, the greatest. This government is very helpful. India's great economy is doing well. So I think we have also created a self-delusion, and we've not been, we have not been. We don't have intellectual integrity actually. That you are not benchmarking with the world. That how China has speeded up, and why has that happened is because of ease of doing business, and like we sort of abdicate our responsibility. The solar sector today should be racing ahead, working on wafers and capital goods.
Yeah.
And you will see that now there will be a foot in the door and you will be forced to do that. And that foot in the door, it is better that it is a self-inflicted foot in the door rather than somebody putting a foot in your door. So let's get proactive and, you know, now Atam Nirbharta and having the world Nirbhar on you is a reality now.
Right.
See, I'll just take 2 minutes.
Yeah.
The buzzword in every boardroom, every panel discussion, next 30 years are for Indian manufacturing, just as the last 30 years were for Chinese. Now, this is again a myth. There are situations of poles apart. I'm not saying we'll not do, we'll do very well. But the situations are pole apart. China was running a marathon in a closed, air-conditioned stadium with the AstroTurf. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And what are we supposed to do? Tariff uncertainties, geopolitical, apart from domestic, supply chain constraints. We are to run a hurdle with all these obstacles. And still, we are expected to do what China did in 30 years when it was having an absolutely free run. It had only to do produce. There was enough Western capital, Western technology. So they had a dream run which Indian companies will not have.
Gujral
Despite that, will
Never
succeed.
won't be.
I would like to interrupt you here. If we look at China of 70s and 80s, Chinese government, through its various corporations and state bodies, etc., invited the best of manufacturers from across the world. उनको बोला, what do you need? Tell us. How many jobs will you create? Because at that point of time, they had started to notice that Russia was breaking up because of lack of jobs, etc., dissatisfaction. So the government was very clear. And I know several companies in our trade who went and set up large factories, work sitting in Hong Kong. If you look at most of the industries, they are bordering Hong Kong. Ab jaake aage chala gaya, but you see that whole movement from the side of the government, and I'm not saying our government didn't do it, whatever, but I'm saying if we're going to learn from the Chinese, we should also learn how did they do it. They said, you want a factory, we'll make it for you. You said, you give us the blueprint and we'll give it to you on lease for 99 years or 100 years, whatever, for a pittance, no cost. You want labor? We'll give you labor. You want capital? Here's the capital. And what would they do? They will make some state corporation your partner. आप कर रहे हो, setting up में पैसा lose हो रहा है, उधर से अंदर जा रहा है. You'd never know. Continuous feeding of capital, of people, of infrastructure, until these people came to a stature, and karte, I think it probably took them 10 years. But if we begin to think कि भाई उन्होंने सब कुछ ऐसे कर लिया, ऐसा नहीं करा उन्होंने. They had a plan in place.
They were highly
हर बंदे को, they brought every person. You want housing, you want whatever you want, was given without a question. So it became so lucrative
No, actually, Deng
for
had
people
he had a tailwind
across the
actually.
world to go there. भाई इंडिया में सेटअप करेंगे, कहीं और सेटअप करेंगे, it cost let's say $10 million. वो कह रहे हैं जी आप $500 million दे दो और काम कर लो.
They have to only concentrate on manufacturing, which the government of China or the Communist Party facilitated. Here, the businessman is supposed to navigate everything.
Absolutely.
From land acquisition to pollution control clearance, what happened to POSCO,
Yeah.
to all those things. Because China is a dictatorship, they could do that. We being a democracy, we have to pay a price for it. So we either value democracy or we sort of.
Mohindra sir, you were saying something.
It's a realization of what we need.
The greatest  step ever in history, corporate history, was you know, the Chinese, there is a quota of the number of Chinese in Taiwan at any moment. It's 29,000. At any moment, more than 29,000 Chinese can't be in Taiwan, which means Taiwan considers them to be an enemy. And so it was very difficult because Chinese bureaucracy was worse than our bureaucracy. So the Taiwanese would not get visas because that's, you know, the bureaucrats would say, we'll give only 29,000 and we'll do a head count. Till it went to Mr. Deng, and Deng said, why do they need a visa? They can come with their driving license. वो तो हमारे citizens हैं. So that was the big leap of faith. But he had, you see, a tailwind. If we are going a bit into society now, he had a tailwind because Mao had completely demolished entitlement. कि कोई तुम्हारी entitlement नहीं है. तुम irrigation secretary हो चाइना के, अब जाके sanitation worker रहो अब 3 साल के लिए. So he demolished the capitalism and the entitlement, and that is what he inherited. So the hunger at that time was absolutely palpable. You go to the factory at 11 o'clock, there was a lot of excitement because lunch milne wala hota tha.
But there is obviously something missing, because if you look at the LGs or Samsungs or Vivos who have come into India and have been success stories, right? They had exactly the same issues that to deal with, but they succeeded despite those issues.
They're already
right?
successful, ma'am, in their home. So for them to plant it here is something not so hard.
Samsung, what it has done in India and what it has done in Vietnam, it's moved out of India. And today, I think, if my memory serves me right, the Samsung output is, I think, 17, 18 or 20% of GDP of Vietnam.
So I'm saying,
So
I'm not talking about today.
I'm saying if Samsung,
I'm not talking about today. I'm saying
20 years ago also, if Samsung was so welcome in India, they should have expanded in India. What capital they put, they are doing that. But all additional capital has gone to Vietnam.
No, they've become a local company. They're not exporting. Their export out of Vietnam is about $50 billion.
Yeah.
Wow.
50
No,
billion.
what
So
I
what
am
is Shivpriya's
saying
point?
is, my point is not whether Samsung has moved out. I'm saying they are on the point that, you know, the Indian ecosystem is very difficult to navigate and there are lots of problems that Indian businesses have, but there are several successful businesses that exist in India. Here's an example, and several of you are examples sitting around the table. And I'm saying even foreign companies, when they come to India, especially, I mean, Vivo I would take as an example, LG in its, Samsung in its time I would take as an example, which was 20 years back that they came in. India was much more difficult at that time. And LG was another example. All of them were successful in India. So what is it that made them successful, and what is it that, you know, Indian businesses are so diffident about in terms of the environment?
Basically, you're talking about global brands,
Yeah.
right?
No, I think you've
another
not
side
seen
of
what has
mine
happened
is-
to Vivo. I mean, they are the unhappiest company today in the country.
Another
Vivo,
side
yeah.
of the coin is how much companies has got failed. They have invested a lot and gone back. So even our sister company, De Beers, has invested a lot of money while having conflict in getting
But-
the rights of mining. They went back.
But isn't it true that there'll always be successes and failures in every space, right? They're not always all successes. So you hear about successes from China, but I'm sure there must be failures also in China. It couldn't be
I
that
think it's,
every company
There would
that was set up.
definitely be.
depends on the
Yeah.
sector where you are
Oh, so,
operating.
yeah, of course, and of
So
course
we
on
are
many
only
other
from
things.
here, other than people like yourselves who are exporting, somebody like Vivek who knows, a lot of companies in other places. We are only aware, the Aam Janta and the other, even the educated people, we are only aware of mostly of brands who have made it here in India, right? The external brands. So we really don't know which companies have failed in China. There would be thousands of them.
Sony has
I'm
failed
sure.
in India.
Sony has failed in India. Sony to har jagah fail ho gaya.
Delphi has failed in India.
Sorry, which one?
Delphi.
Huh.
No, you
So,
can name bigger companies.
building
Ford
a
and
global
GM.
brand.
I said Ford
yeah.
and General Motors.
You know, that's what I'm saying. That
India is a
How do you build Sona Comstar into a ZF, for example, in the next few years?
It won't be few. ZF was built in 125 years. We are only 25 years old. So
Okay.
there is a bit of a time compounding factor. Second, ZF Friedrichsen, that's their full name. They are owned by the city of Friedrichsen. They are like the Chinese companies, part owned by government. They are a state.
The German government.
So is Volkswagen. It's owned by Wolfsburg.
Yeah.
So a lot of this, we take these examples, but the history is very different. Their primary objective is to provide employment to the municipality of Friedrichsen. That's like the primary.
That's it.
However, how do you take it if I was born in China and my name was different and I started the company at similar time, in let's say 10 years ago, we have grown in India 10 times. If I were in China, I would have grown 100 times. That's the scale difference. When we talk about all the PLI schemes, our schemes put together are 20 billion. China's exact same scheme on PLI for Little Giants was 1 trillion. There is a 50 to 1 order of magnitude different. I don't think we should delude ourselves and try to compare with China all the time. Let's look at Korea. It's a better example to look at.
Yes.
Going from industrial revolution,
But
one
learning
which
from
is
Chinese is not so
textile.
bad.
Learn from
We should
everybody,
not
sir.
just say
Yeah.
because China.
Learn from
If
everybody.
China can teach you something, why not?
But if you want to compare in scale and talk about government policy, we are not as rich. We can't talk about those policies.
We are very rich. You know how much we spend? All governments put together? 100 lakh crores.
That's not a lot.
100 lakh
$1
crores.
trillion I meant.
100 lakh crores is
That's half
a
our
huge amount of
economy.
money.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
It's-
half our GDP being spent on one
It's a
scheme.
trillion plus dollars.
We still one.
Where is that money going? Manufacturing, which deserves 25-30% investment. This is all that investment which has gone there.
So there is a problem in our deployment that we diluted too much, which I made that point that day.
Yeah,
Obviously, the chief economic advisor did not like it.
Yeah.
That we have zero focus, zero agility.
Absolutely.
What we try to do, because we're a democracy, every scheme will be democratized. PLI for auto, 100 products, 1,000 companies. Kisko mila? 9 companies. Why? Because if you dilute it to 100, how can 100 products get it?
I think Nanda had raised this, what's happening with the PLI schemes.
What was
Yeah,
the failure?
yeah.
PLI was created, the concept was created by ICA. And
You guys did a good job.
took us a year. No, but what was the principle? Principle was JVCs and Indian champions. Few.
Few.
I think
yeah.
the auto
That's
PLI
the operative word.
completely diluted it.
Sir, actually this MSME fixation of our country is because
Absolutely.
we are democratic, garib desh hai, sabko de do. But sabko when you do, then you actually end up giving nothing to anybody.
जितना
Nothing
मिलता है, उससे
meaningful.
कुछ होता नहीं है
20 billion if you have to distribute. That 1 trillion, yeah, you could distribute to 500 companies. You only have 20 billion when you're starting. And now you want to give it to 5,000. So even less impact.
वो भी
That-
कहाँ वो हमारे से सारा रिकवर कर लिया.
But
You see
आपकी
the
policy is
6%
good.
increase in GST on mobile phones has paid for all the PLIs which the government has launched.
Absolutely.
That's where the money has come from.
The PLI has badly failed in energy sector also.
Yeah.
None of them is able to utilize as on date, even in BAS also. The money is not utilized. Same thing has happened for even ingots and wafers, whatever it has come 2-3 years back. The entire 47 crore is lying, nobody has till now utilized. Same is for BAS
Same with
also.
us.
Same is for BAS also.
Auto, not even a rupee has been given out so far. Not even one.
Yeah.
Third year of policy. Like that's
Mobile and telecom has been
They have to have some other way of living. They have to have some other video funding.
But
Like
because 5 people.
White goods also is very
White
successful. Very successful.
the solution, better solution is the VGF funding instead of a PLI schemes actually. I think
The
what they are
VGF
getting,
funding, yeah.
That is the gap funding is better.
So,
also.
Dhingra sir, back to the question that I wanted to ask you, which is that, in our briefing that day, you were saying that India is good in textiles but not so good in apparel. And you are strong in apparel, your company, right? So how are you looking at this? Are you looking at expanding manufacturing, going to other
I
countries?
didn't say that we are weak in apparel.
I mean, relatively compared to
नहीं,
textiles.
देखिए, when it's all comparative. If I look at China, they're 10 times our size.
Yeah.
But we haven't grown for various reasons. And some of those could be, for instance, we were restricted in setting up man-made fiber. I won't name the company, we all know. So they wouldn't allow you to import. Import was banned. Now, Indian fiber was here, imported fiber was here, but you couldn't import it. If you import it, there's very high duty. So, with the result that the entire man-made fiber, he will vouch with me, kind of stagnated. Thereby, it's like, you know, 1 lakh काट दी, अब 1 लाख पे आप भाग लो, कितना भाग लोगे?
And cotton also we got
So,
short our
see,
supply.
हाँ, cotton, just to so-called farmers को protect करने के लिए CCI ने एक rate बना दिया. अभी खोला पिछले हफ्ते, 10% tariff till 30th of September. If we are concerned in, you know, making it more economical, and I would say, if let us say we have to look inward, India is a huge market. Huge market. But the cost sensitivity in India, in Indian market, is huge as well.
Yeah.
What I sell,
मैं वही सोच रहा
what
था.
what I sell
That's exactly what I was
to
thinking.
America or Europe, let's say for $15, Indian markets want it for 5.
Yeah.
Now, unless we get into raw materials, unless we get into all the imperfections and say that, all right, guys, we remove this, we're going to support you. I would say if Government of India was to remove GST, make it 0 in this difficult time, on the entire value chain, I think will give a huge spurt to the domestic market. And without having to running to various countries outside India, we could partially and maybe quickly, you know, find
So
it in our own home.
What's the GST on apparel now?
5.
5%.
But everything helps. I'm saying,
Yeah.
what could, if we were propel it to say 0, so जो
It'll
कुछ
still
है
be, हाँ,
imperfections
थोड़ा तो
खत्म कर दो.
मिलेगा.
Whilst not to give up, you know, support the current manufacturers. Unfortunately, in our trade, we have like 12 or 13,000 registered garment exporters. 95% of them are below 50 crores. And they've been below 50 crores for the last 15 years, 20 years. So they are happy, वो 50 crore का काम करते हैं और 6-7 crore कमा लेते हैं. 6-7 crore में 2 crore वाइफ ज्वेलरी खरीद लाती है और 3 crore का फार्म हाउस खरीद लेते हैं और वहीं के वहीं बैठे. They don't want to worry and expand.
I'm a sociologist also actually.
I taught the facts. ये reality है हमारी, चाहे हम माने या ना माने, ये हमारी reality
I
है.
think
कि there is no incentive to grow, and especially I think it's so unfortunate. What I said earlier, is there an industry here in India, with you're all, you know, leaders, that could give employment to another 5 crore people, 10 crore people in the next 3 to 5 years? It's only apparel. Only apparel. If I look at, I'm 16 billion, आपके पास 5 crore लोग काम करते हैं. I don't know, 1 billion में कितने लोग काम कर रहे हैं. If we could grow this, we could actually, and this is an industry that doesn't need much power, doesn't need much land. You could plant it anywhere, wherever there's reasonable infrastructure. आपके आसपास सब लोगों को within, you know, we run training centers where, you know, in the rural areas and make people employable. It takes 60 to 90 days. And you can take anybody uneducated, angutha chap, whatever. And that training brings at least 95% they get a job.
I think better to have any business model which can conquer with Manarega.
No.
Industry benefit both together.
So I'm just saying that, we've ignored the real opportunity to, make masses come out of the poverty lines. And unfortunately, whatever has happened is going to hurt us very badly, but with a little support here and there, we can grow our domestic industry, domestic manufacturing, and not only overcome the Trump tariff situation, but actually grow where it was supposed to be growing now, as I said before.
See, the bane of Indian industry that we have believed small is beautiful. And fragmented, fragmented capacities. Matlab, Pankaj will correct me if I am wrong. The total, there are about 7-8 listed companies in the electronic manufacturing space. I'm not talking of the automotive companies. Maximum revenue they would be doing would be about 60,000 or 70,000 crores, which is 8 billion, 9 billion, including Dixon. If we exclude Dixon, it will be 30,000 crores. One Jabil does 25 billion. I'm not even talking of Foxconn.
Yeah, correct.
You can take it up from there.
No, so I think electronics, the structure, the plan, and everything, the tailwinds are very strong. So we are 140 billion, now we'll be 500 billion. And exports will be 180 billion out of that. We are absolutely clear.
In how much time?
2031.
2031.
That's his Prime Minister has already announced it. So last year he announced it. And now what Gujral said that we have to fire on all cylinders in electronics.
Anchor units.
Auto is languishing, auto electronics. So the hero is smartphones, but all verticals have to start firing now, and that's what we are building on. The foundational industries are getting created, and now innovation, not discovery, but innovation, and if R&D is 1 to 10, focuses on 10, 9, 8, 7 at the moment, not the core, not the 3 nanometer and so on. But after 31, electronics has to take another big leap in India, which is that we have to get to the core. And there we should be open to every particular technology in the world. We've just set up Venture Access Labs, which is an aggregator of all innovation in the world. We have tied up with everybody possible. Israelis, Singaporeans. I think I'm taking a leaf out of this meeting that even the Russians we should tie up. Whatever is available in terms of innovation. Because that adds an extra value to the industry and to the nation. It does. That's what we really need to do.
Any closing thoughts from anybody else? Or we can then wrap up. Okay, so it's been such a fantastic, discussion. I'm so happy that Mr. Mahendra, you said that you're going to take a leaf out of this meeting. I hope all of us have some leaf or the other to take out of this meeting. At Mint, we take pride in doing these discussions where we, the basic funda is that aap sirf gyan dene nahi aate, lene bhi aate hain. So you also come to learn. As journalists, we keep learning. It's our job to learn. So, but as leaders, sometimes you might lose perspective on learning, which we hope to sort of stimulate in this kind of setups. And the takeaways from this discussion are enormous. And we will, of course, put out a report on it, and it will come out in a book format as well of all the 5 discussions that we are going to have this year. And I want to thank all of you on behalf of Mint, and I want to thank Shivpriya and JSA for their support in putting this series together. And thank you all very, very much.